This episode of The Unstarving Musician is powered by Bandzoogle, helping musicians around the world create professional artist websites. I somewhat recently moved my own artist website over to Bandzoogle. You can see it at urbonzo.com. I'm a longtime WordPress user and website designer, so trying a system like Bandzoogle was kind of a big deal to me, but I know that WordPress ain't that easy to learn, and lots of musicians have no interest in learning how to use WordPress, but will try something purported to be easy to use. Well, it doesn't get much easier than Bandzoogle. I've talked about the numerous features they have at the front end of other episodes, but after talking to Dave Kuhl, VP of Business Development with Bandzoogle, I learned about several other features that are especially interesting right now, such as crowdfunding, subscriptions, donations, and all of that without fees added. They also have tools to help you sell merch, tickets to your shows, build your email list, and more. They have support 7 days a week. So look, go to bandzoogle.com to start a 30-day free trial. You can use the promo code ROBONZO to get 15% off your first year. That's bandzoogle.com, promo code ROBONZO, ROBONZO. This episode is powered by ConvertKit. More than just an email marketing company, ConvertKit is focused on landing pages too, giving beginner creators the ability to build email subscriber lists. I've been using ConvertKit since early 2016. Their new free plan allows creators to make unlimited landing pages and forms. Choose from multiple templates, add personalization and design, include an incentive email, create a thank you page, manage subscribers, and send broadcast emails. Plus, you'll get access to the ConvertKit community page where you can join groups, follow topics, post questions, comments, and interact with other creators. To connect with your audience and to make a living doing the work you love with ConvertKit, go to morningtempo.com/convert. Let's do the show. Welcome back to another episode, my rebellious donuts. I don't even know what that is, but I hope it comes with sprinkles. I'm your host, Robonzo. On this podcast, I have conversations with independent music artists and industry professionals intended to help indie artists be better at marketing, business, the creative process, and all the other things that empower us to do more of what we love. Make music. Do you want to help others find this podcast? You can do so by subscribing on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. It really does help. The Unstarving Musician podcast is made possible through the generosity of listeners like you. One of the easiest ways to offer support is to join the Unstarving Musician community, and you can do so by going to unstarvingmusician.com and join right there on the homepage. As a member, you'll receive from me tips and lessons you can use in your music journey. And this is not just stuff coming from me and my years of experience as a gigging musician, but also from the hundreds of other musicians I've talked to as part of this project and podcast. You'll also get a free copy of the Unstarving Musician's Guide to Getting Paid Gigs ebook, and that is all free just for being part of the community. To learn more about the other ways of offering your support, please visit our sponsor page at unstarvingmusician.com/crowdsponsor. My guest for today's episode is Dean Johanesen. Dean and I recently caught up via email to talk about adjusting to the new worlds and live streaming. I attended a recent show he streamed on StageIt.com. It was great fun, and he's doing a private event stream on Facebook this coming weekend. His hometown area of Sarasota is beginning to open back up, and he's about to do his first show in real life since the pandemic began. Not an easy decision, as we discuss. He also discusses his songwriting, specifically how he catalogs, recalls, and updates song ideas on the go. We chat about his website, which is hosted by Reverb Nation, making shows look better and helping them to be memorable experiences, and a wee bit about recording and streaming gear, and more. Dean is a cool guy. I recommend you check out his shows. You can find him at deanjohanesen.com, and that Johanesen is JOHANESEN.com. Link will be in the show notes. Here's me and swinging Dean Johanesen. Sure. All right, man, we're going to do this now, and I am, for the most part, going to try and make it a live or something I don't have to edit, so let's not say anything we'll regret.
All right, 10-4.
That almost never happens. So our last conversation, I was looking up, and I can tell I'm still clipping here, but our last conversation was July 5th of 2018. Can you believe that?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I say our last conversation. We actually spoke like in the last week, but for the podcast.
Right. Yeah. And you reach out to me every once in a while, which is great. I always love to hear from you. And but it's one of those things when you do this, it's like you don't want to oversaturate even being interviewed again too soon. So, so it's good.
And I appreciate that you're pretty sensitive to that. It's been a kind of a bit of a recurring, I don't want to say theme, maybe a sub-theme, subtopic whenever we talk about being careful of that. And I understand. Yeah, totally. So for anyone who's listening in the future, so we're actually recording this one on May 14, 2020, almost a couple of years later. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
I didn't look. I'm going to look it up really quick because it'll be fun. So I know I'm up to episode 152, and you will be, I don't know exactly where, but in the between, there and 165 somewhere. And so, yeah, about 100 episodes ago, because you were episode 61 back then in 2018.
That's really cool.
I was still trying to get my bearings.
You're doing a great job, man. I've heard a number of these interviews because I know a decent amount of people that you've had on, and it's been really cool to listen to them as well as get the benefits of the information that your guests are sharing. So I appreciate you doing what you're doing.
Well, I love hearing that. Thank you. I was looking over notes very quickly from our last conversation for the podcast, and we talked quite a bit about your songwriting process. And I thought I'd start with asking you, since if you can wrap your head around any changes that might have occurred, has your songwriting process or method changed since then?
That's a good question. I don't know. It's weird. Like I'm still influenced by some historical things, but the last few things that I've written recently have just been like one-off, just kind of off the cuff, come out sort of tunes, which I'm forever grateful for, because I've got plenty of documents, songs that I have in Google Docs where I'm chipping away slowly but surely. And, I look at the date when I last opened the file, or, or when I first started it, and I'm like, my God, this song has been going for a long time, but I just don't have it quite right yet, So, but I've had a couple that have just come out, and I've been really thankful for that. And so, yeah, I mean, it's changed in that it's, I don't know, it's not as heavily influenced historically, the things that I've written just recently, maybe where I was reading books to write the songs in the circus record. That's still it's done, but I'm just waiting for the master right now. So it's changed a little bit in that it's just kind of, I'm letting the inspiration come from where it comes from and giving myself a break from research and study so much. So yeah.
I don't know if we did speak about the research aspect of the circus and the connection that you have. So I guess you're reminding me that you did spend some time, at least early on, if not ongoing. So that must be kind of a, I don't know, not a relief necessarily, but just something like it freed up some bandwidth, perhaps?
Maybe. I mean, it's kind of weird, sometimes it really helped in a lot of ways to write with blinders on and to have a focus, sort of like choosing to write haiku poems. You only have 5, 7, and 5 syllables to work with, and you got to make something artistic within that framework, or a sonnet or whatever. So with the circus thing, I just, I made sure I was like, and I was interested in it, so it wasn't like a major chore. I was kind of fascinated by it. I live in Sarasota, so it's a circus town. So there's a lot of that history around here. And it's not that I'm not still interested in it. I'm still fascinated by those stories, and I still enjoy playing those songs and sharing the stories behind them. I also have like a kind of an old Western thing happening where I almost want to release, much quicker than it took me to do this circus record, a kind of a spaghetti Westernish kind of
nice
thing, stories about the Old West. Cause I've been out to Colorado a number of times, and I got into reading some of that history. And I think that will never leave me completely. And there's always the books that I've been reading. I read something recently, the Radium Girls, the girls that were working in the watch factories, painting the dials, the glow in the dark dials, and how they were exposed to radium. And,
Oh, wow.
I was like, oh my God, and then I read a book about the Wright brothers, and I was just I was on a roll about that for a while. So it's that all that stuff is still in it. It's just sometimes they're not exactly close together and thematic like the circus stuff was. So I think the history is still there, and it might come out, like I said, in another EP or something like that. But I'm also, there are other things that are kind of like seeping in, and I'm just kind of trying to, if I get that inspiration, I'm really trying to just open myself up and follow it again.
That's cool. I like it, and it certainly provides plenty of fodder for songwriting. When you said you are keeping stuff in Google Docs, what is that? I wanted to ask what that looks like. Is it prose that you have for lyrics? Are you doing melody notation in there, or are there actual recordings? What are you keeping as you go along to catalog ideas?
Sure, it's primarily like lyric and chord charts for myself, and I like using that because I can access it from my phone if I'm away, and because it's weird, man, because I have journals. I have this wooden box here that my wife got me years ago. It's full of journals that I've been writing since I was 16. And a lot of stuff is horrible, but it's kind of cool to go back and see a little bit of the progress maybe that you made in writing, and there's still a lot of progress to make, but a lot of times now it's like I don't have the notebook with me, or I don't have I don't have everything with me that I want to, and slips of paper are getting lost, and it's kind of hard to keep track of. And when I started utilizing Google Docs, it's kind of cool because if I'm driving down the road, or if I'm at a gig and I have another little bit of a line for a song that I'm working on, I can dial it up real quick, open up that document, and type in whatever it is that I was thinking about the tune, and it won't get lost, and it'll be in the place that it's supposed to be. And that's been really helpful to me. So it's a spot where I can go, and like I said, most of it is just, it'll be a song title. It'll be maybe like how much of a verse I've gotten, ideas for a chorus. And then if I have little bits and pieces of lines that I think are other verses or chorus parts, maybe second choruses or bridges, it's all in there. And even with each line, sometimes I'll have a debate, in my head about what words work in a certain line. And what I do with that is I'll put out the line that I initially was inspired to write, and then underneath it as an alternate, I might put in parentheses, I might put in like a secondary line or an alternate line, or even if it's just a different word, use this word instead of that word maybe. And it just mentally helps me remember, well, not mentally, but it helps me remember somewhere that I had other ideas and alternates for lines. So in the writing creative process, that's been a really big help for me.
I love that idea. I was going to say, I feel like I am technically a novice songwriter. I wrote some things decades ago and just stopped. And same thing with guitar. I stopped, and in, I don't know, the last year or so, I picked the guitar back up, and it was with the motivation to want to write something. I didn't expect to put together a song as quick as I did, but I had an idea, whatever. But I love the idea of kind of putting some alternate notes there for the lyric, and I was also just kind of curiously thinking about that these systems that like Google Docs and our phones give us that are very intuitive today. It's not so much like we can't apply systems to those old, the paper journals, because we both know people that have those systems in place quite well. But it's different, isn't it? Having that just feels, like you said, it feels so much more handy, and maybe it's that it's just more comfortable to be able to do it so fast and so real time.
Yeah, it's weird. I was really like, I am a journal guy. Like, I love having whatever I pick a certain book, it's got to be unlined. It's got to be like this thick. It's got to open up this way. I've got to have this pen. Like, I was very particular about all that stuff. And I think as my life got busier and the more that I was gigging and the less I had time to like sit down and actually go into the room and write, or, you know, I don't know, we've gotten pretty far away from, I mean, back when I was doing that journaling thing, it's like, I didn't have a phone on me all the time, you know, that
Right.
my journal was the phone, and that pen that went with it was like, it was with me just as much as the phone was. And then from that, it was a small step up to a handheld cassette recorder that I would like, you know, sing ideas into or speak ideas into. And now everything's kind of gone to the cell phone, which is nice because it does streamline it. But it's just finding a way to organize the new technology, I think, is an important thing too, because I will, like, if I change phones and I go back in through my like videos and stuff, and I'll be like, there'll be like all these song files in there that I forgot even existed.
Yeah.
They're like, man, I forgot I even started writing that, like, you know, maybe a year ago. So I'm also trying to get better about, like, you know, even if I'm still doing that on my phone, but I make sure that I like, you know, have a file that says new song ideas. And I know that I'm dumping those new song ideas into that file, so that if I have a day to kind of go back and hash through, I open up that file and I start at file 1 and then go all the way through. And then one of them might click and inspire me to kind of continue that idea. And every once in a while, if I really have it together, I will go to the Google Doc where I have those lyrics, and then I'll put the link to that video, or I'll put that video in the Google Doc so I can also see what I was doing when I'm trying to capture the idea on video. And I'll have a melodic reference and maybe some chord references that way too.
Wow, that's pretty cool. You know,
Yeah.
I know everybody thinks differently. Some of us think in very similar patterns and colors and methods, but I wonder if people would be interested in seeing the what's the word I'm thinking of, the there's like a very popular, like that one page diagram, I forget what we call it nowadays, but you know,
The
like
Venn diagram?
yeah, kind of, you know, like the one page diagram of your process with these systems that you have for giving people ideas on how to organize their stuff. I spoke to a young woman for the podcast. She's got an episode coming out pretty soon. Her name is Juno. She's done a lot of touring with some big name artists, but she just put out her first album, and she shared with me that she has hours and hours of voice memos on her phone that she uses for ideas. And so, and maybe she, you know, she clearly has some sort of practice of sitting down and listening to all those, maybe while she's doing other stuff, but to see what catches her attention later. And I was just imagining, I mean, she told me how many hours she had, and I was thinking, that's incredible. How do you possibly get through all that? But anyway, lots of different methods. Okay, I better switch gears here, as I know people love hearing about the different ways that you guys all write, and I loved hearing it too. But we should talk about live streaming, which is such a big deal right now. And I know that there are some people that are still, you know, waiting, thinking about, haven't yet gotten on board with it. So I watched one of your shows less than a week ago, I guess, on StageIt, and then it looks like you have one coming up that is going to be hosted by, I say hosted, but the streaming host is Reverb Nation, and then I see you have a live stream Saturday upcoming for a private Facebook event. Did I get all that right?
Yeah, well, I as far as the Reverb Nation thing goes, I actually just listed information about the private event on Reverb Nation.
I see.
Yeah, because that RN site also kind of operates my main website, and I'm trying to remember that even though I'm just doing streaming stuff, I feel like it's important to update my website and let people know that I'm still performing. And it's weird, like with regular venues, I do that all the time, but I kind of just stopped. And then opened up my website the other day. It's got all these events that I had booked before the pandemic, and I had to go back in and delete a bunch of stuff. And then I thought, well, I'm deleting all this stuff, but I should at least post that I'm performing. And so I put it on the website with the idea that maybe if somebody paid attention to that, or that, you know, because I do a weekly email too, but if they clicked on the website, they would see the link, and the Facebook event page is listed there too, so that people can actually go to the page. And I'm only keeping it private because it's kind of a thematic thing where it's like a sangria Saturday kind of night. And so I just, I teach preschool music classes, so I'm trying to it's weird. Like publicly, I have to be careful about certain things that I say or promote, and I don't think most people would care, but I try to maintain some kind of professionalism online.
I understand. I played for a number of years with an educator who was like eventually vice principal and principal for middle school and elementaries, and so it was a constant trying to be careful.
You got to figure out where your audience is and what this. I remember we were having a house party one time, and we were at one of those, either like Costco or Sam's Club or something like that, stocking up on some alcohol for the party, and I ran into a couple of the kids and their parents, and I had this like cart full of like wine and beer and stuff, and they ran up to me like, "Oh, Mr. Dean," and then I see the parents like looking in the cart and looking at me by myself, and I'm just like, "Oh, we're having a party at my house," but it's a little awkward.
Well, in reality, the parents were probably like hoping they'd get an invite or something. And
right, yeah. Like, this guy's all right.
Yeah, and the other side of it is something you just say, that's for a friend, by the way.
Right, right. Exactly.
Not able to get out of the house. That's funny.
Yeah.
Okay, so does that mean, so the private event on that, the stream part of it hosted by Facebook, is this going to be the second platform that you're trying between StageIt and Facebook, or have there been others already?
Well, so far it's just been Facebook Live and StageIt, and a couple of ones that I did on Facebook Live were hosted by other venues, like the Hub where I play on Siesta Key, the Hub Baja Grill. They actually asked me to go live from their page, so they gave me access to their page. That's cool. Then I went live on a Thursday to help promote them, and they had some fundraisers set up for their employees, and which is good for the artists in a lot of ways too, because people that follow that page will wind up getting exposed to your music, and then your fan base is exposed to this place that you play. That cross promotion is really nice. I did one on Mother's Day at a venue in Tampa called Ella's Americana Folk Art Cafe, but I actually did that one on site. Their dining room was closed, and they usually do a Sunday brunch. But they asked me if I would come up and play on their stage so they could kind of like have their branding to the show, but it also went out to their people too. So it was really nice to get the invites from these venues that I play, and also to be able to support them in some way too, because as we're kind of in this, we count on each other in this relationship. We're not always, some people complain about the venues and money, and there's some people that are trying to pay musicians less money and all that stuff, but a lot of them are extremely supportive, and they're the reason that we're able to get out and do what we do. And a lot of them really understand that the music is an important part of their establishment. And so I love working with those places, and I'll do whatever I can to help them, Yeah, but cool. I'm getting off topic. I know, I apologize, but anyway, so far it's been StageIt and the Facebook Live so far. And this coming Saturday is the first one I'm doing as like a private event. It'll be streaming from the event page. I think you just have to get the invite, and it won't be publicly playing like a lot of other videos are usually. So
yeah,
anyway, that's my approach.
I learned today, and it just no, it wasn't like it was a hidden fact or anything, but like if it wasn't a private event and it was streamed on Facebook, you don't even have to have a Facebook account to see that. Those things are searchable online. So I guess, and I just learned about the private events just today through my the host of my podcast RSS feed. They have this great podcast about podcasting in the industry, and so they'll mention sideline stuff like this. And these private events are seen as actually a pretty cool thing for podcasters as well. But sure. That'll be cool. I look forward to hearing what you think about it. And I want to mention, lest I forget, and I'm going to put a link in the show notes, and I want you to, if you're interested, check this guy out. I'm going to send you a link right now on Skype. So he's a friend of mine, a former bandmate. His name is Neil Schnell, and he's been doing Facebook Lives from a venue at which he had a standing gig. So it's vacant. It's him, and one of the staff will be there, who you won't see. But there were a couple things. I attended his most recent stream a few days after I saw yours, and so there are a few things for people who are doing this or not doing it yet. Just some comments that he'd made. Like, one thing he was kicking himself about was that it took all of this for him to set up some online payment apps so that people could tip him. And he said, I'm just kicking myself for not doing that sooner. And they too were doing things for their employees. I don't know. I don't recall exactly how he's connected with that. And he was talking about a benefit he was being invited to play forward a stream that's helping some needy on Keycocker in Belize, and which was kind of cool. And then there's the visual aspect of what he's doing. And he, like you, he has a new piece of gear that's under the iRig brand. Okay. I forget the name of the company that makes it already, something multimedia, but so he's the guy I think I mentioned that has that iRig stream, and you and I talked about this, and for anyone who's listening, it's just a great interface that allows you to stream something from your mobile device, but give your audience the actual audio feed that they might hear there instead of just the audio feed from your phone, microphone or whatever you're using, and does some other cool things, I imagine. So it was nice to see the both of you and to look at the different little things that you do. So anyway, I hope that you'll check it out and that people here will. Yeah, I'm hoping he's going to come on the podcast in the next week or two to talk more about what he's doing. I want to get back to StageIt. Okay. And ask you if you can just share, your notes that you've had on the differences and the pros and the cons and what you think you'll be doing moving forward. And are you still going to experiment? Do you have some other methods for doing this that you're thinking of experimenting with on the horizon?
Yeah. For anybody that doesn't know, StageIt.com is a site where you can that hosts like streaming shows. And I started working there as opposed to jumping on Facebook Live right away, because I had a number of people in the fan base that were not on Facebook or didn't utilize it very much. So I wanted to give them a platform to see the live shows. And you join for free, and you set up a profile as an artist or a fan, and you can dig into all the different artists that are on there, which is a pretty good list. And there's a pay scale wise, you buy coins through their site to pay for shows or to tip artists as well. And like 1 coin is 10 cents, 10 coins $1, et cetera, et cetera. And it works with PayPal and your debit card. And the shows happen from, basically it works best from your laptop or your desktop computer to view the show. And then you just go on and schedule the show, and your fan base tunes in. And it's very similar to the Facebook Live. But what I liked about it was I like having the private platform to do a show, and it usually inspires me to do more of like either storyteller songwriter thing or play songs that I don't normally play in the live venue setting, dig a little bit deeper, sort of like utilize like sort of the house concert approach to those shows. And I also like the fact that it isn't recorded. It's kind of like in the moment. You show up and you get to see this special show, and then it's gone. It's not really rehashed or anything like that. So those are the bonuses in my mind, where StageIt offers something a little bit different than Facebook Live.
And so with the private Facebook stream that you're going to do, is that something that can be played back for people that were part of the RSVP, or is it one time by chance?
That's a good question, actually, because this is the first time I'm trying it. And I wasn't even sure how to go live, except for I just realized, like, I did some digging the other day after setting it up, of course, that I basically will go live from the event page, and the people will be able to watch the show there. And from the shows that I have done on Facebook Live, you have the option to save the video or delete it after the show. And so I'm kind of on the fence about what I'm going to do as far as that goes. I might save it, take a look at it, and see if I want to share it or if I want to just leave it on that event page for people to come back and check it out. I thought about deleting them in the past, but I think the one that I did for the hub, my mom was like, she tunes into all these because she's on the other coast and it's hard for her to travel over to see me. And right now she's definitely quarantining to stay safe. Mm-hmm. But she said, it would be nice if you left it up for a good bit because I'd like to share it with some folks that I know that might really enjoy and appreciate your music. So I see the logic in that too. And I'm trying to weigh and balance. I don't know what it is about me. I like things being in the moment and then being kind of gone. It's something I appreciate about that, It's not so much that I'm worried about the performance. I don't think I've ever done a perfect show. I don't know who has, maybe Prince,
right?
Or James Brown or something, but it's not really about that. It's just, I like this thing that happens with a group of people in a certain moment. And I like the fact that disappears. It just makes it a little bit more special to me. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. And the one thing I know that flies maybe against that outlook on Facebook is my understanding. I haven't even done this enough on my own, but referring to Facebook Live, but that much of the interaction comes after the fact that that you can have with your fans or community. So, right. There is the opportunity to consider, but I like, I think it's kind of cool what you're doing, and maybe there's a good mix where you have some that live much longer, live there for a while, right. And then some that don't. So
yeah, no, it's I think you have to kind of embrace a little bit of all of it because you're not really sure. For me, I haven't been doing this long enough to know what works and what's best for my fan base too. And so I'm even with the idea of continuing StageIt, I even thought about next week, sending out an email to everybody and just saying, hey, what's your feeling? Are you liking these shows? Do you have ideas for things you might want me to try on there? Is it too difficult to get money? Are the coins annoying you? What is it? Because I do what I do for the people that have come to enjoy my music. And so it means their input and opinion means a great deal to me in terms of how they get the music from me. So I consider that as well.
And I'll share some thoughts on it right now. And StageIt told me in an email that they seriously wanted to know what I thought of it, and I know they ask everyone this, and I'm sure wisely they want to make it the best experience they can. The coin thing was, if it would have been easier, I wouldn't have minded it.
Right.
But it was a little clunky, as is the website. Yeah. And then, so I just compared. It's only, it's kind of tough to do this. So it's the first and only time I've watched one on StageIt. And I've watched a lot of Facebook Lives, and I've seen some really pixelated, choppy broadcasts. Yeah. But, talking about the one that I saw you in, and then a few days later watching my friend, I was pretty surprised at the quality of the StageIt one in that it wasn't great. It was totally watchable. Now, and what I was doing, in some fairness, I didn't come back. So I was Chromecasting from my laptop to, a flat screen.
Gotcha.
In my living room. And I did that in both cases. I don't remember specifically if I came back to see what it looked like on my laptop. Did it for some reason look better? But by contrast, when I watched the one that was on Facebook, it was pretty darn clear, which surprised me a little bit too, because I've seen some bad ones. So I don't know if, it just depends on the night of the week. But I do know that there are a lot of factors involved in whether or not something like this comes across to your screen good, and it doesn't have everything to do with the platform. Although they do, as Netflix has shown us, they do have a lot of control, over the quality of it. Right. But anyway, it was a super enjoyable experience, though, and I think their premise is pretty cool. I was able to look at your supporters on there. They had a nice community feed going on, a great listing of artists. The one thing that's cool about StageIt is, you and I talked about it while we chatted by phone, which I recorded. I will share here because I love making fun of myself. I somehow deleted the recording, never to be recovered again. But it wasn't my usual. In my defense, it wasn't my usual podcast setup. I was trying to be real impromptu and use another platform anyway. But yeah, it was really cool to see all the artists. Many big names on there who were utilizing it. So I love that stuff. I look forward to them, giving the website a facelift. I hope they make it. It's a cool idea. It's a really cool idea.
I would like to see them move to an app based platform, so that because basically right now, if you don't have a webcam, you have to use whatever built-in camera you have on your laptop to do the show. You can't really do it from your phone.
Really?
So going back to why it's pixelated and everything, it's like if you don't have a decent webcam, which I don't, because when I wasn't doing these when this first started, and then I started looking for webcams when things went down, and they were all gone, and I think they're probably still on back order right now. So it was really difficult to the process of setting up my laptop to capture the video and figure out how everything was gonna look in the video and adjust the lighting. I mean, that stuff will take me like a whole day right now, just because I'm trying to get it right. But it's like there are certain limitations to what your built-in camera has, as opposed to how good your phone can be, So that's the hard part, because when I do Facebook, I can actually utilize my phone. Going back to that iRig thing, I have the iRig too, and I patch in sound from my mixing board into the iRig 2 and then into my phone. And then I can use my phone, which has a better camera for the video for the shows on Facebook. And then some people know, they have I guess it's a DSLR style camera with, the ability to patch that into the feed. So then the video quality gets better. And if they're able to feed it into the house, like when I did the Ella's show, they had a better camera, and then they had their live music board plus their stage lighting and stuff like that. So all those things come into play. That's why this is there's such a weird learning curve to this, and a process of figuring it out, if you haven't done it before.
Yeah. And, man, I feel like I may be holding one in my hand, but I feel like there's an interface that would allow you to use your phone for that camera for StageIt. But, and, hopefully you've already been doing this, and forgive me if you have, I'm stating the obvious, but I would think that talking to the community that's utilizing it like you are, to ask them, hey, has anybody figured out how to use whatever, here's my situation, I have this webcam or I have my phone camera, has anybody figured out how to let my phone be the webcam or be the cameras for these? I feel like there's got to be a way, but anyway, that's insightful and good for people to know. So if they have, certainly it makes it easier for them if they have the right type of camera to do it. Don't even have to worry about that. But there's a number that are in the same situation that you are. I don't know what my friend Neil was using, other than I know he has the iRig Stream, and I know he has amazing sound gear to work with at any venue, indoors or outdoors. And I was really, so pleasantly surprised at how he was doing. This is a guy, by the way, that has written some music, but is mostly does cover tunes. He's a multi-instrumentalist. He tours with original artists from time to time. But this is just kind of a standing gig, and he loves, the thing about him, he's sort of one of these live without a net people, in that he loves to always, since I was a younger guy playing with him, he always wanted to take requests, whether he could play them or not, and at least know what people want to hear. So he with the live streaming, one advantage you do have is you can get these requests with a little advance notice, and you get like a day or an hour or whatever to try and learn something. So I got to listen to him do some pretty funny stuff, but he's a pro, so he got through it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I enjoyed your various tunings that you did, and those deep. I think I mentioned this to you. I really kind of like the deep cuts. I was, I got acquainted with some music of yours that I didn't know. I gotta ask you something else, which has nothing to do with live streaming, but I was really curious. Have you been publishing music? I always open Spotify when I want to see what's going on with people that I'm talking to on the podcast. And obviously I look at their website, but I was like, wow, so this is what it looked like. But I almost, more times than not, I just didn't see something more current. But I'm like, oh, he hasn't released anything terribly new in a while. This is just looking at Spotify, right? And then I go back to your website and I see, oh, but he's got all these tracks on Reverb Nation that I don't even think I saw in Spotify. So I just wanted to ask, did I miss them, or are you strategically releasing stuff outside of Spotify lately?
No, it's weird because I made a shift in like 2013 when I left the band that I was in. So a lot of the deep cuts that you were hearing that night are from the old band called The Human Condition. And that was like it was a little bit pre Spotify. Yeah. It's like, streaming wasn't such a big thing at that time. I don't even know if those records are on there. And actually a couple of them I had to that week I was like trying to relearn songs that I wrote so many years ago, to try to get ready for the show. So it might be a consideration because I think I still have a copy of our record called Life in Lines. It was probably the better full length that we released, that I might be able to kind of put up there. But it's weird because I made such a turn, that 2013, A Time and a Place was like a really stripped down singer-songwriter record. And then I started working on other stuff, and I put out a live thing sort of to get people something new in the direction that I was heading. And then I started working on the studio record, and then the 24 Hour Men, my band, we put out a live show from the Hideaway Cafe in St. Pete, and I think that's available. Both of those, one's called Live at Fogartyville, and the other one's called Live at the Hideaway Cafe. And the band is Dean Johanesen and the 24 Hour Men, and those are both available on Spotify. But the older stuff definitely is not.
What about your what about your solo stuff? You have some that's just you, right, that you're releasing?
So not really. A Time and a Place, that record was solo. I kind of recorded that after the breakup of my band, The Human Condition, and people were kind of asking for older songs that I had done and more of a stripped down thing, because we went kind of full production on this record called Life in Lines, and some people were like wanting this more stripped down version of those tunes. So I made that record for that. And the next record that's coming out, that's almost done here, is more back like full production of the circus kind of tunes where I hired horn players and, different singers, and, it's a full band, upright bass, drums, trumpet, trombone, clarinet, violin on a few things. And that's going to be more like the thematic focused circus record in full production. And then I got to see where I'm going to go from there.
Okay.
Hopefully the trio will have another opportunity to actually record in the studio too. So,
yeah. So thanks for putting the picture together for me. I'm kind of realizing after having similar conversations so many times that sometimes stuff will just hide from me. But then there's also, now we kind of have this, I guess when I talk to artists that are otherwise new to me, like once upon a time you were a new artist to me, I don't know the whole chronology of your music family tree. And so I might know of some songs that I think are your stuff, and it was you and another in one of your bands. And anyway, yes, thank you. This is kind of a side question going back to something you mentioned earlier, because I wanted to ask and I was curious, and I think you answered it, but I just kind of wanted to hear your thoughts on it. But did I understand correctly that Reverb Nation provides a platform upon which your website, Johanesen.com, is on?
Yeah. I was paying another service years ago to host, and then they just completely got out of the business, and I wasn't sure which way to go, because I wanted to have like a legitimate website. And then for a little bit more money, you could have the Reverb Nation folks host a website without their branding on it. And so I paid a little bit more to have it done through there. The reason that I've kept Reverb Nation so far, and I know a lot of people have been mentioning other platforms and changing things out, but I have been a guy that's like totally believes in the weekly email or at least a monthly email or something to reach out to fans. And I have been using that platform for so long. All my contacts are in there. And I'm sure it'd be easy enough to kind of pop them out and maybe put them somewhere else. But I just haven't researched that enough. And so it basically took all the information from Reverb Nation and put it into this .com website. And so it was an easy transition for me to host a regular website and not lose everything that I'd worked on so far, you know?
Yeah. No, and it seems like you're happy with it. Now, it's a content management system alternative, right? Like, so they've given you the tools to go in there and update content and, you know, customize your layout a bit and all that.
Yeah. I mean, there's some definite, like, you know, just there's a few basic things to choose from for your .com part of the Reverb Nation thing. Reverb Nation basically looks the way it looks, and you can change the header picture and the profile picture and all that stuff. But I do like the fact that like I don't have to email somebody about, you know, can you put this show on, or can we, and I'm not tech enough guy to like write code and all that stuff, you know. So for me, it works and it's immediate. You know, I can delete a show, I can add a show, I can put pictures up, I can add video. It's just in the moment. As soon as I think about something that I need to do, I can get it done, and it transfers over to the .com website without me having to do anything extra than upload it to Reverb Nation, which I like a lot.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's a great looking site, and clearly it's not difficult to use. I'm looking at some of the features here. I didn't even know that they did this, although you and I might have actually talked about it, but I was kind of scanning through my notes and I'm like, I'm not sure that we did, but yeah, that's cool. I know a lot of people utilize Reverb Nation for the business that is their music, so kind of nice. I've been hounding on people more and more to get your website together if you're an independent artist. It's just, I don't know, trying to let the business of your music live only on Facebook or Instagram to me is wrought with peril, and even though sometimes just the comfort of having everything somewhere keeps you there, even though you think you maybe want to look at something else, it is still yours. It's all your stuff, you know.
And the other thing too is, I'm seeing this wave of like people getting really tired of what's happening on Facebook, and they're kind of writing it off and they disappear from it for a while. And I really understand that, man. There's a lot of negativity on that site, and sometimes it's really hard because there's a responsibility on our side, like you're saying, is like to maintain the business end and to work on the social media. But there are times when I get on there, it just like disappoints me about human beings. Like I'm like, why are we this terrible to each other? Why are these people so terrible to each other? Just lashing out at each other online. It's just kind of ridiculous to me. And it's just it's hurtful. And it's hurtful, like emotionally, like, man, this hurts. Like this is bad for our species. You know what I mean? So yeah. I'm going off on a rant, but basically my thing is like, if you have Instagram, like I love Instagram because it's like, it's a picture, it's a quick post, and you can, I utilize posting it on other platforms. So I share it on Facebook, I share it on Twitter. And comments are typically, pretty positive. And, so I love that. And I try to maintain it, but I also maintain the website because if this other, stuff goes awry, you always have that to fall back on, and you're in complete control of the content that's there. And for me, like I said, that email thing has been really important. I don't know that everybody reads my emails, but every week when I put one out, I get 3 to 5, maybe 7 people that, send me back a note, hey, thanks for the information, or, so-and-so and I are not coming down from Canada this year, but we hope you have a good time. It's like these personal relationships I've built and maintain through those messages mean everything to me, especially now when you're not able to see those people, so, and I know that happens on Facebook too, but I just like the fact that I've got this network of people that I keep in touch with through my website and the emails that I send to them.
Yeah, that's great. That's good stuff. And, you're kind of inspiring me. I have a couple, probably about 4 different lists, right? So the Unstarving Musician has a growing community that subscribes. And then I was thinking of this one that I had from the San Francisco Bay Area where I'd lived for 17 years and performed for most of those years and built a list there. And that list was all about, where I'm playing next and people who wanted to come see me and the people that I was performing with. It's great, that people want to be part of that. Well, then I left. And I left. Right. And so I still have the list. I don't communicate with them, but, you just kind of inspired me because here I am working on a single. So I have something to talk to them about.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure they would love to hear from you too. It's, after this much time has passed and you've got something else going on, I'm sure they'd be thrilled.
Yeah. And, was really a bad thing on my part. 2 things that happened, when we moved from there to Panama. And these were mistakes on my part to not think long and hard about how to maintain contact somehow with that list. And the opportunity is not completely gone, but certainly as time goes by, the health of the list goes down. And then the other thing was I did not get right to the business of building my list very specific to performing here where I am now, and that kind of has happened lately. Now, on the flip side, I've been focused on the Unstarving musician community, so it's not like I'm not building anything, but would have been good. So you are returning to live performance soon, it looks like. I'm sure your fingers are crossed that it's going to go through, but it looks like you have some shows coming up. Is that right?
Yeah. I the places that I play during the weekday, evening too, but Siesta Key has been a huge support. In Florida, we're in this really unique place where like music pretty much happens all the time, down here. That's why this was such a huge hit, because it's not like we just lost this once a month gig that we had or every other week. It's like most of us in season play, we can play pretty much almost every night of the week around here. Yeah. So when you see that cut happen, it happened back when Red Tide was really bad here in Florida too. All the beach bars that a lot of guys played were just completely eliminated, and we were just out of work waiting for that to end. And but anyway, so there's a business down there that has multiple locations or multiple little restaurants in one area, and they have music about 3 to 5 days a week, 3 times about 3 times a day, almost 7 days a week.
Wow.
And but they were able to offer us some of us a payroll option to perform music so that we wouldn't lose any more income, and because of some of the help that they had, they were able to kind of, if they could put us on payroll, they could afford to bring music back sooner. It's just difficult right now because I don't know that it's the right choice. I was really all on board for, the flattening the curve and staying home and being safe and not jeopardizing the health of, my wife or anybody else. I mean, it's basically just the 2 of us at home right now. But so it's weird. It's like I'm thrilled to have the work because I haven't had any state help or anything. Haven't even gotten a stimulus yet. So, you're starting to look at your account going down and you're like, man, I'm trying to be a good citizen, but I don't know how I'm going to live here anymore if this keeps up,
Sure.
So the offer was like so greatly appreciated, but it's this struggle with me where I'm just like, I don't know if I'm doing the responsible thing, but so far I played Monday afternoon and I played Tuesday evening, and the restaurants have done an amazing job. They're cleaning nonstop. The staff is extremely sanitary. They're following all the CDC rules about distancing and spacing tables. I even saw a waitress tell, because somebody was going to move a table, and she said, you can't move that. They're in the exact place they need to be for CDC rules. And so that made me feel a little bit better. But now this thing is as a musician, you're just like, you're so used to promoting like crazy, but at the same time, it's just like, you don't want to tell anybody to do something that they're not comfortable with, So even my post on Tuesday night was just like, the patios got less tables. They're following CDC rules here. If you're well and you feel comfortable, feel free to stop by for some live music. But it's like you don't want to push anybody yet, because I'm watching these numbers and it just saddens me about the deaths. And I know I'm going off on a rant, but there's a lot of weight put into every decision I'm making right now as far as performing live music, because I don't want to do the wrong thing.
Yeah, sure. Perhaps the key is to creatively adjust our conversations when we talk about the performances, and sharing the things that are going through your head about it, like you just did here. So I think you'll manage it well and make the right decisions, and people will others will do the same. I have to ask you about one last thing. It's been a bit of a theme for me over the past week, and that is appearances and making shows memorable. And I use the word appearances kind of, referring specifically to aesthetics, and then just in general, I guess the word memorable really encompasses both aesthetics and lots of little things that have nothing to do necessarily with the way we dress. But can you just share your thoughts, sentiments on making shows look great and making them be memorable?
Yeah, I subscribe completely to trying to do that in every, I don't know if every show, there is a setup that I have that's particular to, I feel like goes along with my music and the things that I write about, and looks kind of sideshowish, and there's old suitcases. And so that presentation has been an important part of what I do for a long time. And I do feel like people remember that, and they have, I don't know, it adds to the experience in a way. It catches their attention. I think that's important. And I think it's important to know what that is for you personally. You kind of have to figure out what it is that you're doing and what you're inspired by artistically, and then, figure out things around that. And for me, like, slideshows are a big part of my thing. I try to make specific slideshows for special events that reference the venue where I'm playing, and sometimes adds pictures of my fan base. And then there's whatever branding I have with my logos and website information. I try to add that in there too. I love watching artists perform and make art live. So there are times where I'll invite an artist to come and create a piece of artwork in the moment at a show, and then maybe like raffle that off or something. And so I don't know, it means so much that people go out of their way to spend the time to come see me play. I just want them to feel like it was worth it.
Yeah, sure.
Aside from the music, it's like, I know that the reason that they're following me basically is because it's something connected to them with the music that I make. But I also, I wanted to, and I know that's the most important thing at the base of this whole thing. But I love the fact that you can actually not only just play that music and put just as much into it, but you could just put just as much into making something that they walk home going, man, that was just so much fun. Or, did you see that artwork the guy made? Or what about that slideshow or something? I don't know. It just means a lot to me. So as far as for me, that's kind of what I think about when I do the shows that I do, especially like online, like StageIt, like this week, even the private one on Facebook was like a sangria thing. I'm like getting sangria recipes from some people, and I'm going to post the recipes, and then I'm going to play Spanish style music and gypsy jazz guitar, and do something completely different than the singer-songwriter thing for people, so that it's something different and unique. And I don't know, maybe they haven't seen that in a while,
Well, it's very creative. I love it. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for spending time with me today again, in spite of our shorter conversation, but one that I lost to the delete button.
Yeah, no, I understand. It's always good to talk to you, man.
Likewise. And best of luck on your upcoming shows, both streaming and IRL, if we can start using that maybe in real life.
Right.
And I hope to see one of them soon. It's one thing that this whole streaming business has made me realize, because I took the time to watch your show. I'm like, I have all these great people I don't have. It's kind of difficult to maintain the connection outside of the occasional email. And so what a nice way it was to watch you and and my friend Neil and have the extra interaction and appreciation on both sides. So yeah, hopefully I'll be seeing you soon.
Good of you it was good of you to come too, man. I appreciate that. Thank you.
You got it, man. Always good talking with you. Hey, thanks again for listening. If you are loving the podcast, please visit unstarvingmusician.com/crowd sponsor to learn about the various ways that you can offer your support. And again, if you're a listener, I consider you a supporter, especially if you shared it with a friend. Thank you. Look for show notes and links to most everything mentioned in this episode at unstarvingmusician.com/podcast. If you have feedback, comments, suggestions, or questions about the podcast, my guests, me, please visit my feedback page at unstarvingmusician.com/feedback. You can leave me a quick voicemail right there in your browser. You can also email me from that page. Thank you for listening and sharing with your musician friends. Peace, gratitude, and a whole lot of love. Hey there, just one last thing before you go. Music artists and other creators are always facing hurdles and obstacles, and life, as we know, can be a bit unpredictable, to say the least. I'm here to help. Explore the opportunity to work with me in a coaching capacity and to pay only what you can afford. Just go to unstarvingmusician.com/coaching. There's a button on that page to schedule a 15-minute consult call with me on which we'll figure out how and if I can help. And if we both feel good about it, we'll make it happen. I'll also answer any questions you have about how it works, including the pay what you can afford thing. Obviously, there's only one of me, so I do have a limited number of slots at any given time. So if this sounds like something you can use right now, go to unstarvingmusician.com/coaching to learn more or to get started. Ciao.